Is he there? Let's get some music for Sam Primm as he comes onto the stage.
Excited to chat with you today. It's a lot of energy coming from that man. So I'm going to kind of make it a little more conversational, have a conversation. If you have any questions during the presentation, just raise your hand. I'll be glad to answer. But I'm going to talk about how literally anyone can create financial freedom without using a dime of their own money. I have a $42 million real estate portfolio that I bought in the past 6 years without using any of my own money. It sounds too good to be true, but it's not. So let's get rolling on the presentation. What I like to do in events like this is I like to kind of give you the purpose of my presentation. A lot of people will just jump into it, and before you know it, they're halfway through the presentation and you're wondering what they're trying to get at. So the purpose, and the whole reason I'm up here, is to give you the foundational, simple building blocks that you can use to create financial freedom and show you that you are not only capable of it, you are likely and will create financial freedom without using any of your own money, because it is simple. Literally, it's ABC. That's how you create wealth. That'll come back to play a little bit further in the presentation, but it's literally ABC. It's simple, but it's not easy. A lot of people get the two confused. They see my TikToks, as Walter mentioned, or anything else I do on social media, and they don't believe it because they say it sounds too easy or it sounds too simple. Whichever one they use, it's not simple, or it is simple. It is not easy. There's a difference between simple and easy. All right, let's go over the agenda. Going to briefly talk about who I am, give you a quick snapshot of my businesses, talk a little bit about the market, because I think everybody knows the market's changing, it's shifting, interest rates, inflation, what's going on in the war and Russia, what's going on with everything that's affecting the market. So I'm going to give you my market thoughts on what's happening now and what I think is going to happen maybe in the next 12 to 18 months. Going to talk about the most important thing, mindset. Then I'm going to take a bigger look at wealth and talk about the macro conceptual things that go into building wealth. Then we're going to break it down and make it practical and give you some real life examples from me and how those expand into wealth. Then I'm going to have 3 top takeaways that I want you to take away from the presentation. And then I'm going to talk about what's next for me. So that's the agenda. You guys ready to rock? Yes. All right. So who am I? As Walter mentioned, that's my beautiful wife, Courtney. She is there in the back, and my 2 daughters, Eliza and Maisie. Eliza is 6 months old, and Maisie is 6 years old. So I'm a 34-year-old normal dude, husband and dad. I'm literally as normal as it gets. If you were to look up normal in the dictionary, it would be my face. My mom was a teacher. My dad was an engineer. I grew up in the Midwest in the middle, lower class. We didn't need for anything, but didn't have a ton of extra money. It was like a big deal if we went out to eat once a month, and we went on vacations, but we drove everywhere and things like that. So I didn't, grow up struggling, but we didn't grow up with anything in abundance. So literally as normal as it gets, right there in the middle. But I was able to walk the path that I think most of you want to walk. I was able to have a full-time W-2 job. Then I started a side hustle of real estate. Then that side hustle became my full-time gig, and then I became financially free. And I walked that path in about 5 years, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it and figuring it out as I went. So my hope is with the connections you're making now and everything you're doing and the commitments you're making to yourself, that you'll be able to take what you're getting and hopefully take a little bit from this presentation and do that financial freedom walk in less time than I did it. And then I also cut off a little bit at the bottom. That's right. I also have, if you don't know who I am, you probably know who these people are. Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg. I'm going to bring them along with me in this presentation. No, I don't know them. They're not going to be FaceTiming in or anything, but I'm going to kind of sprinkle them in the presentation at key points to show that, they've obviously created an enormous amount of wealth, and the things that they've done are the things that I do, but I just do it in a simplified version of real estate. So what Mark Zuckerberg did to start Facebook, I did to start real estate, and you guys can do as well. So that's going to be a little bit further in the presentation. So here's that path I talked about. 2015, I started investing in real estate on the side, didn't really know what I was getting into. Me and my buddy just thought it'd be cool to own real estate, and he wanted to quit his job, so we just started to figure out a way to make some extra money. So we just started buying a few rentals and doing a few flips. Then in 2018, I quit a job that was paying me $250,000 to go full-time into real estate and to take that leap of faith on myself. And no, I did not make that much money for the first year or two. I took that leap of faith, and we kind of had to kind of ramp things back on the home front for a little bit until we were able to make that money back. So I took that leap probably a little bit too early, but I did it anyway. And then things kind of started to really gain traction. In 2020, I came financially free, meaning I could not work another day in my life. I could be done working, maybe have a call a month to check in on the businesses, or, somebody else was running them in my rental portfolio, but I did not have to work another day in my life. But I enjoy working, I enjoy the grind, I enjoy creating and growing, and you'll see my goals that I have towards the end of the presentation. I need to work a lot to get to those goals. So being financially free and being retired are different. I'm not retired. I don't know if I'll ever want to retire. I enjoy creating and growing and struggling and grinding and pushing through too much to actually retire. But I am financially free, and I want to, we want to expand our lifestyle and do some pretty cool things here in the near future. So I need to work to continue to expand our lifestyle. So, quick business snapshot. Faster House is a flipping company that I own. We are going to buy and sell over 300 houses this year. We're going to probably wholesale about 200 of them, and then fix and flip and close and sell about 100 houses this year. Midwest Property Group is my rental portfolio. It's $42 million worth of real estate, like that I mentioned earlier, that I bought without using any of my own money. Faster Freedom is my social media brand. It's Sam Faster Freedom. I don't have a social media or a brand, centered around me. I'm trying to create faster freedom, like bigger pockets, like become a nationally known brand. Our goal is to be a top 5 real estate investing education company in the next 5 years. We're a year in almost, so I got 4 years left to do it. I think we are well on our way. And that company has over 800 students that we have signed up just this year. And there's actually over $175 million worth of real estate in that group owned by students and coaches. So we've done a lot in a year. And then also with everything that I've done and been fortunate enough and lucky enough and worked hard enough to accomplish, we started a nonprofit in St. Louis called Greater Giving. It's a 501(c)(3). We raise money to help with mental health awareness and help younger people usually deal with the issues they're going through. So if you can help a younger person that's struggling learn how to cope with their issues, what are the ramifications of that, with their family and their friends, and how far that spreads and how we can really help make an impact. We've raised over $250,000 in the last year. Our businesses all donate a percentage of their profit. We sponsored thank you. We sponsored, actually, there was an elementary school in the St. Louis area that could not afford a counselor. So we wrote them a check for $40,000 to pay for them to have a counselor to, help counsel an entire elementary school of kids if they had issues. So that is my business snapshot. But enough about me. That's not really what this presentation is about. Have you guys seen that slide before? I saw that the Bill did that, so I went. No, I didn't. That was already in there. So we don't really need to harp on this. But I think, judging from what I've seen, you guys are understanding, you already knew this or you know it now. You do have a choice. You literally do not have to walk the path of everybody else. I feel like, in my mind, there's this societal conveyor belt that people, go from college or from high school to a job, and then it's on this conveyor belt, and that conveyor belt is just leading them towards, my mind's, you don't want to be in there, it's kind of messed up, but towards the grave. That's literally it. Everybody's just doing the same thing, and then they're done. Same thing, and then they're done. They're not creating their own path, because that's what they think that you have to do. That's what you were taught. That's what I was taught. My dad worked for one company for 40 years and retired. Like, I thought that's what you had to do. You had to go to work for somebody else, then you had to save your money in a 401k, then you had to go out to eat once a month, you had to save your money, and that's the path that everybody was on, because that's all that I'd known, and that's all that I'd seen, and that's all that most of us know and see. But there is another option. When everybody goes left, you can go right. So you can take that, I think in the Matrix, is it the red pill that they take in the Matrix? But Red pill, well, Faster Freedom's blue, and all my logos, all the companies are blue, so the Faster Freedom way is the blue pill. So if you want to take that way, you can take that pill, and you do have that choice, and it's not as hard as it seems. It's actually extremely simple, as I've stated. So let's talk a little bit about the market. As I mentioned, there's a lot of fear-mongering going out there. I'm sure you've seen it on social media. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. And on YouTube, you see the thumbnails. I've seen thumbnails that the real estate market is crashing for 5 years in a row now. Literally every single day almost, you see a new video about how the market's crashing. And you all know Warren, Mr. Buffet. He's pretty smart, and he said when other people are greedy, be fearful, and when other people are fearful, be greedy. So that is what I look at almost every single day, because I'm in it, and I understand the mechanics of it, and I understand the market and what it's doing, and I feel like what it's going to do. And I'm confident, but I still get that fear a little bit, like, is it really going to, actually continue to do well? Is it going to crash? What's going to happen? I get a little bit scared, and I feel like I'm, pretty confident in it as well. So I can't imagine people that aren't in the space or don't have that confidence. So that is a very, very powerful quote. All right, so I don't know if any of you guys are on social media, you follow Meet Kevin. Have you seen any of his stuff? He's kind of made a shift in the past year. He is extremely fear-mongering. He's pardon my French, I feel like he has become a fear whore. That's what he does, is every single video, I see it on my phone and I take snapshots. It's, the world is ending, the market's a disaster, the Fed's going bankrupt, the Treasury going bankrupt. Literally, he gets paid when you click on his video, so he wants you to click on his video, so he fear-mongers, and all of his thumbnails are firing and crashing. And you watch the videos, and he's very smart, and most of them, he does not say the world's ending. He does not say that. He kind of wraps it around and says it's going to be okay, but he gets your attention with that fear-mongering thumbnail, which most people would say is smart. It gets you to watch the video, but what really, really bugs me is I have a YouTube channel, and I know the stats, and if he does it really, really well, he gets 90% of people to just scroll past, meaning he gets a 10% click-through rate, meaning if 1,000 people see the thumbnail, then only 100 people are clicking on it. So that means 900 people did not click on the video, and they think what the thumbnail is about is what's happening. So that's where that fear-mongering really happens. It's fine to have a clickbait thumbnail and explain, that it's really not the end, but when 90% of people don't click on the video, which 10% click-through rate is huge. I get 5%. He gets, way more, I'm sure. That's where my issue is, and then you just see these thumbnails over and over again, and you start to think that he's smart, he has 2 or 3 million followers, whatever he has on YouTube, that's what's happening. And I don't really feel that's the case. I know things have been shifting quite a bit recently, but I want to show you just 2 simple charts to explain what my reasoning is about the real estate market. So I made this presentation a couple weeks ago. That's why I made that line a little bit bigger. 30-year interest rates on your mortgages are anywhere from 6 to 7% right now. And that's kind of what that red line represents. But if you go back and look, I'd say about 80% of that chart is above that red line. So do you think that people didn't make money in real estate when interest rates were a little bit higher than they are now? The answer is no. People made a lot of money in real estate and always make money in real estate. So just having a little perspective on what the market is doing and what it has done can go a long way. I want to show you some numbers here. So in 2021, so last year, I could get a 25-year mortgage at 4.5%. This is commercial rates. This isn't your normal residential rates that most people talk about. Commercial loans are based on the Fed funds rate. Residential loans are based on the 10-year Treasury note. Not getting into that, but they're based on separate metrics. So this is a commercial loan that I can get on any of my rental properties. I just wanted to keep it as simple as possible. $250,000 loan at 4.5%. You don't carry over, we don't accrue for interest or for insurance or anything like that. This is just simply principal and interest. That's what that math is. This year, I was just quoted last week, 6.25%, again from a small local bank. We'll talk about them later. But that exact same loan amount cost me $260 more a month. That's a lot. That's what I cash flow per door about, some less, some more. So on the surface, you would say, well, yeah, you're not going to be able to cash flow. You can't buy real estate right now because interest rates went up. That's what is pretty logical if you just look at the surface of it and don't dig any deeper. However, you got to look at the actual income that comes in. You have to look at the rental rates that you're able to get. in 2021. Last year, the average rental rate was around the country for a single-family house was $21.71. It's gone up over 13% with inflation because guess what? When you own businesses, you're able to pass the expense along to the consumer. Do you think car manufacturers are losing money on cars they're selling? No, it costs them more, so they pass it on to the consumer. Groceries cost more. The grocer's not losing money, they're business owners, and that's what you need to be when you own real estate. You're a business owner, and you can't charge more than the market, but you gotta be aware of the market. So look at that increase. And not every one of my properties is up for renewal, so not every one of them is, getting the rent increase, and I usually like to give my tenants a little bit of a deal, maybe 90% of market rate. But if you're looking at them just apples to apples, you can actually cash flow more because rental rates have gone up more than interest rates will cost you. And that's not something people talk about. I put that on a thumbnail on a YouTube video, and 8,000 people watch it. I mean, Kevin says that, the world's ending and the market's crashing, and 500,000 people watch it. So just want to take a little perspective and there's no fancy footwork. There's not a matrix with a diagram and an algorithm. It's just simple math of what's happening with real numbers. Then also I want to talk a little bit about the home prices. Most people will show you this chart because that's what's happened in the last 12 months. That's not sustainable, right? That's scary, and I agree that is not sustainable. However, this is the median home price over the past about 60 years. As you can see, there's a lot of ups and downs, but what follows a down and up every single time? I think most people are shocked to look at '08. You hear all the scariness of '08, and it was scary for people that were over-leveraged, for people that didn't know what they were doing. But you run the math, and on average, in 24 months, from the very, very height of 2007 to the very, very bottom of 2009, was a 23.5% dip in house prices. Meaning, the worst crash in history of the United States of America in the real estate market was less than 1% a month on national average. Now, obviously, some markets were hit worse, Phoenix, the coast, some were hit less. But if I were to not look at this chart, I would think that houses lost 60% of their value on average, and that's not the case. This is just the national Fred data. This is as bland as it gets. There's nothing else in there besides just simple median house prices. So we have had quite the spike, and it needs to soften, and it will soften. But guess what? As it softens, it's going to go right back up. If you go back and look, every 15 years since 1900, real estate has doubled in value. Even from 2007, the height, to 2022, because we've had that crazy spike, obviously for a lot of reasons, real estate doubled again in value. So it's something that have some perspective on, know what you're doing. The market is shifting, it's softening, but that's a good thing. It's supposed to do that. They're forcing it to do that. It's not like '08 where it just snuck up on people, or even COVID. They're trying to get it to soften and slow down, and I'm extremely confident that that's what's going to happen. But as soon as it starts to get out of control, they're just going to simply drop the interest rates a little bit, and then things are going to settle out. So just wanted to give a little perspective on my thoughts on the market. I do not have a crystal ball, but I am confident that if you buy a good real estate asset now, in 20 years, you will be very glad that you did, even if it loses 5%, 10% of its value over the next 10 to 20 months. You'll be happy you did, because every single-family rental property I buy, I expect to make $200,000 on in the next 10 years. We'll talk about it later, but with appreciation, the value going up, the tenant paying the mortgage down, cash flow, and tax savings that you get with real estate, every single one is $200,000. So I'm not worried about a slight dip in price because I'm going to hold on to it long term. It doesn't really affect it. If I don't sell it, it doesn't matter what the price is. The banks that I work with aren't going to call the note due. We're paying the mortgage every single month. So it doesn't matter the value if you're not looking to transact. All right. Jeff Bezos said, it's my view that there is no bad time to innovate. No matter what the market's doing, no matter what your personal situation is, it's never a bad time to innovate. So let's talk a little bit about the macro of real estate. I think you guys know those people. I mentioned them earlier. We got Jeff Bezos. I didn't know he had one eye way bigger than the other eye. Can you see that? I don't know what's going on there, but it looks like a glass eye. Maybe it's because he's a cyborg or a robot, but whatever he is. We got Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg. They've all done pretty well for themselves. So we're going to do some examples with them. So this is the ABCs of real estate. This is takeaway 2 for you. So how is wealth created? So take away real estate, take away anything. Wealth is created by ABC. I mentioned it earlier, right? You borrow money to buy an asset that produces cash and use the cash that asset produces to pay off the person you borrowed the money from. That's it. That's what I do with real estate, and that's what all these people did with business. Now, let me show you what Jeff Bezos did. Obviously, it's a little bit of it's not exactly what he did. It's a little more complicated. Oh, I said Jeff Bezos. Sorry, I meant Zuckerberg. It's not exactly what he did, but it's close. So here's what he did. He didn't do with real estate. He's way smarter than me, probably smarter than anybody in this room, but he borrowed money. If you've seen the movie, and I did some research on Peter Thiel, he was the very first angel investor in Facebook. He got some ownership and some cash, so it's a little more complicated, but in general, Zuckerberg created Facebook, and then he needed an influx of money. So what did he do? He borrowed money to increase his asset, Facebook, then got ad revenue from Facebook, cash flow, and then he gave him ownership, but basically paid him back. No matter what business you're talking about, Jeff Bezos did the same thing with Amazon. Everybody that creates these big businesses, Musk didn't start Tesla, but he, got in at the beginning. And that's what you do. You borrow money to buy an asset that produces cash and grows in value. Then you take the cash and that value growth to pay off who you borrowed the money from. And you can still own that asset, whether it's a business or real estate. Now, I'm not smart enough to start Facebook or to start some big tech company, so I did it with real estate because that's where 90% of millionaires come from. I got crypto, I got an e-com score, I have all those things, but you take crypto, e-com, Forex, stocks, having your own business, working for somebody else, your IRA, every precious metals, every other investment you can think of makes up combined 10% of millionaires. 90% are made through real estate. That's been that way for 100 years. So why wouldn't you just do what most people do and most millionaires do, but just kind of hack the system and do it sooner and do it quicker by borrowing money to create that wealth and having, some velocity of wealth. You can create that velocity by buying more real estate. One house is going to take you a while to create wealth, but you can do 10 houses, 20 houses, however many you want, and get there much quicker, and you don't have to use any of your own money. So I wanted to kind of hammer this point home a little bit. The U.S. housing market is, I think it's bigger than anybody can even wrap their brains around. I know I can't really, but those companies I mentioned, Amazon, Tesla, and Meta, those are ginormous companies, and these are company values. This isn't the net worth of the owner. This isn't, even their revenue. This is actual values of the companies, which, the value is based on some X of the revenue. So these are ginormous numbers. Those three huge companies combined don't even make up 6% of the U.S. housing as far as the value goes. So that's kind of showing that other point. 90% are made through real estate. Even those ginormous businesses make up a very, very small portion of the housing market. So the housing market is huge. So that's where I think the best and highest likelihood of everybody here creating wealth is tapping into the biggest option, which is real estate. All right. So now let's break it down to the micro level a little bit. Let's talk about how I do it, and I'm going to have an example with real numbers. So I just want to keep it simple, and then we'll kind of peel back the onion a little bit. So what I do is I borrow money to buy a house from a private lender and a small local bank, and then I get that house fixed up, and I get it producing rent, producing cash flow, and then I pay back the bank with the equity that's created in that rental property, or pay back the lender. So that's my ABCs. I'm going to break it down a little bit more, but that's how I do it. That's how I bought $42 million worth of real estate without using any of my own money right there. ABC. Exact same thing Zuckerberg did with Facebook, just with the house, because that's a lot simpler. And what I do is the BRRRS Method. Who's heard of the BRRRS Method? Raise their hand. All right, stands for, and you probably, if you've heard of BRRRR, you've heard it with the R, the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. I kind of changed that a little bit and changed it to the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and scale. And Brandon Turner, formerly with BRRRR, kind of coined the BRRRS phrase. And I actually was on BRRRR a couple months ago, and the entire topic was on scale. They liked the fact that I changed it from repeat to scale because repeat just means go back and do what you did. There's no learning lesson, no Monday morning quarterback, no growth from that. But when you go back and look at it in a certain light and create things that help you scale, I'm going to get to in a minute, it makes it happen a lot faster. All right, so let's use some emojis. What's up?
You said you want bigger pockets?
Yes.
Let's give him a big round of applause. That's so badass.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about that BRRRS method in a little bit of detail, and I think a lot of you said you've seen it, so this will hopefully be a little bit of a review for you, but I'm going to do it emoji style because everybody kind of knows emoji. So what you do is you borrow money from a private lender, for an example. There's a ton of different sources. We can talk about them later, but the easiest one is a private lender. You borrow money from a private lender to purchase a distressed property. That's how it starts. That's the very first step. You buy distressed property at a discount by borrowing money. The next step is you borrow money from that same private lender to repair that distressed property. It's distressed, it's not livable, it won't pass occupancy, it needs some things done. Whatever it is, you get it to become livable. So you borrowed money to buy and fix up that property. The next thing you do is you get it producing cash, so you get a tenant in paying you cash every single month to prove that it is a cash-producing asset, to prove that it is something that a bank will give you a loan on, because up to this point, you just have the property purchased and funded from a private lender, not a bank. You need that long-term funding. So here's where it gets a little more confusing for people. Are we with me up to this point? Borrow money, fix up, and get a tenant in. We're good so far? All right, gets a little more complicated here, but it's not too bad. That's why we went emoji style. So now you have your fixed up property. You take your fixed up property to a small local bank, and they will write you a check, and again, we're going to go over numbers here in a minute, for up to 80% of the appraised value. So you got it paid in cash, you bought it at a discount, you created a ton of equity by buying it at a discount and improving it, so you should have enough equity to pay that initial lender back. I'll go over numbers here in a second, but you created enough equity in the property to get a loan from the bank. You're just getting a brand new loan from the bank, and they're going to cut you a check. They literally hand you a cashier's check, these small local banks, for 80% of the appraised value. So if the property appraises for $100,000, they will hand you a check for $80,000. And it's a cashier's check, which is like cash. I know that because I ripped one up before and threw it away, and it cost me about $3,000 in insurance to get that $100,000 check back from the bank. And I think it was maybe 3 months of having that fund sits in escrow. So don't throw away cashier's check. It's just like cash. So that's the takeaway number 4. So they will give you a check to pay back your private lender. Now they're paid off, but now you owe the bank money, right? Over 25 years in a mortgage. But what did we do last step? We got the property rented. So then you take the rent from the tenant and you pay back the bank, but it's over 25, 20, 30 years, whatever your mortgage is with the bank. And that allows you to start to on that path and start to create that wealth by one rental property is good, $200, $300 a month cash flow. You're going to create wealth from that one property, that $200,000 I talked about. But you all need more than $200,000 over a 10-year period. You need 10, 20, 30 of them, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And then you scale. This is where I took that repeat out of there and added an actual actionable system. The BRRRS method is an acronym, so I created S.C.A.L.E, which is an acronym as well. This is what we talked about on the podcast that came out in July, if you want to check it out. I have a podcast too I'll talk about in a minute, but the Bigger Pockets podcast, that's what we talked about. This is not the fun part of it, but for some people I guess it may be fun, but this is how you scale. And this works in any business. This is how I went from, 0 to 2 million followers on social media in less than 2 years. This is how, my $42 million rental portfolio, I bought 25 million of it in the past 15 months. And this is how our flipping company flipped 140 houses 2 years ago, and now we're flipping 300 houses. So this is the systems that we used. I just kind of made it nice and pretty. So what you do is you create systems and processes around every step. It's not super fun to do, at least for me. Some people love it, but creating those systems allows you to create efficiencies so you can scale faster. You need to be efficient. You need to do 10 deals in a year, not 1 if you want to scale. Then you got to get involved in some type of coaching, whether it be free, whether it be paid, whether it be watching people on social media, whether it be hiring somebody or just partnering with someone. You need to get involved in coaching. I don't know anybody that is extremely successful, in my opinion, extremely successful. I don't know one person that has not paid for some type of mastermind, mentorship, coach. So you can try to do it on your own for sure. I think it's an inefficient way to do it, and you'll lose way more money than you'd spend, butting your head against a wall and stubbing your toe. But you can try it. But everybody I know that's successful wishes they started sooner and has a coach. There's not one. I went through the entire list, and there's not one that doesn't have those. Number 3 is my favorite part, is taking action. Ready, fire, aim kind of thing, just, shoot and figure it out. That's what I've done a lot and, figured it out. But if I had been a little more strategized throughout the process, I feel like I could be even further along than I am now. And then in any business, including real estate, you have to increase your lead flow. It's just a numbers game. Every 10 houses you look at, you're probably going to buy one. So if you want to buy 10 houses next year, you probably got to look at 100 good quality leads. So you just have to do things to increase your lead flow. And then you have to get extra funding. You need multiple private lenders, multiple hard money lenders, multiple lines of credit, multiple small local banks, just plenty of money sources. Don't ever let money be the reason you can't buy a deal. Let not being able to find the deal be the reason you can't buy the deal. So that is a quick version of an hour-long podcast on BRRRS of how to scale, but just wanted to put that out there for you. All right, now let's go over an example to kind of really, really drive it home. So let's say this is a perfect example of a house in St. Louis. Bought a distressed house for $100,000 from a private lender. Put in $50,000 rehab. So I have $150,000 of a private lender's money in the deal. Get the property rented for $1,750, pretty standard in St. Louis. And then you do that 80% cash out refinance. Meaning the property appraised for $200,000. So the bank wrote me a check, a cashier's check, that I did not throw away for 80% of that. So they wrote me a check for $160,000. So we can all do the math up here. I owe my private lender $150,000. I have a $160,000 check. I'm done. And most of the time, they don't get $10,000 on a 3-month investment. I give them back $155,000, and I keep $5,000 of tax-free money because it's a refinance. There's a guy in my office that made $211,000 in 2021 on this exact thing, on cash out refinances, because properties grew in value so much that he was able to pull out a little bit from every single deal he did. And it's tax-free because it's debt. Debt's not taxed. So that's a very simple but real-life example of how you utilize the BRRRR method and get to that point where you're not using any of your own money. Yes, you owe people money, but you own real estate. You own a house. People have to live. People need shelter. So you're owning a necessity, and you're doing it ethically, and you're taking care of your tenant, and you're respecting them, and you're charging them a fair rate, and you're providing a quality asset and making the community safer all in one, but you can make a lot of money doing that, which is exciting. All right, so now let's talk about takeaway number 3, and this is where that $200,000 goes into play that I was talking about earlier. I've kind of coined this one as well. If you haven't figured out, I like kind of coining things and trying to think of clever ways to explain things. I call it the passive wealth trifecta. Over time, you own real estate, it goes up in value. It always does. Short term, may see a little dip here or there, may kind of go flat, whatever it's going to do. If you own a quality asset and you manage it properly, it's going to go up in value. It's never not, and it always will. So that's the first part of the passive wealth trifecta. But then the debt gets paid down, not by you, by the rent. So there's 2 opposing forces working opposite directions, but in your favor. That can happen quickly. Do you ever remember those math problems that I got wrong every time in high school or whatever, where one train goes this way, the other train goes that way? What's the distance in between them? It expounds substantially as they're going quicker in the opposite direction. So it's the exact same thing, but with your wealth. It's pretty cool. I don't do anything to create this growth, and I've done the math between these 3 values going up, mortgage getting paid down, and cash flow. Feel a little bit D-baggy saying this up here, but make $7,800 a day without doing anything, because my portfolio that I worked, we can clap for that, I guess, make almost $8,000 a day. So I've been here for 2.5 days, so we've made almost $20,000 without doing anything, because I own enough real estate that's going up in value, and this is based on, 5% appreciation. It's been way more than that over the last couple of years, and it's gonna probably slow down. It hasn't yet in St. Louis. St. Louis, we're still getting 100% of ask. Prices are still going up. It's less than 2 months inventory. St. Louis is still doing fine right now. I'm sure it'll get hit a little bit, but that is the power of the passive wealth trifecta and scaling simply buying rental properties. My $42 million rental portfolio is made up of single-family rentals, apartment complexes, self-storage, and a few commercial investing, but the majority of that is about single-family rentals. About half of it is single-family rentals because I just love that space because it's liquid. You can sell them quickly. You know, you get usually a better tenant base than you do in apartments. And apartments have their place, but, you know, I have all of them. But all of that combined is about $8,000 a day we get passively without doing anything. I got a team that manages the rentals. You know, I have a team that, you know, gets the tenants in place. We have a maintenance team that takes care of any issues that come up. Don't have to do a darn thing, and $8,000 a day. You know, I don't get that check in my bank account because, you know, a lot of it's based on equity, but that's what my net worth goes up a day with just those rentals. All right, let's talk about that exact same property, how real estate explodes your wealth. This is the third takeaway, that you can create wealth and set the things in place, but then you let real estate do what real estate do, and you can make a lot of money. So that exact property that I just talked about, valued at $200,000 a day, I got a refinance for $160,000 from the bank. So that's my debt on the bank, or debt on the property, and it cash flows $250 a month. In 15 years from now, it's going to double in value. I think more than that. Most of the 15 years it more than doubles, but we want to be consistent here. So it's going to be worth $200,000. And let's say I did a 20-year mortgage, which a lot of people will get on their first property, and you get some extra cash flow and you pay it off. So you pay it off 15 years. That's extremely reasonable. A lot of people get to a point 5 or 10 years in where they just do the debt snowball and they start to pay properties off and they're not worried about growing anymore. So that's, again, a reasonable assumption. So I owe $0 on it. And over those 15 years, $250 times 12 times 15 is $45,000. So that one rental property, that's pretty cool without using any of your own money. And just simply 15 years from now, $400,000 equity and a decent amount of cash flow along the way with no debt on it. But what happens when you do that 10 times? Whether it takes you a year, 2 years, 3 years, that's $4 million, and that's $450,000. What happens if you do it 100 times? Everybody can do it 100 times. Maybe it'll take you 10 years, 5 years, whatever it takes you. That is $40 million. Shoot, so many zeros it had to re-autocorrect down below it. So $40 million and $4.5 million of cash flow. And that's not even assuming rent increase, which is going to happen. When your property's paid off, your cash flow goes from $250 a month to probably $600 a month. So that's like as conservative as it gets. I'm not one of those guys that's going to show you the best case scenario and everything's going to land perfectly, all the dominoes are going to fall perfectly. This is, I wouldn't call it worst case scenario because obviously, things can go south, but if you just do the simple things, this is minimal what you'll get. It's probably more like $5-6 million, because probably more than that, because you're not just going to get $250 a month. As rents increase, as you saw, usually much higher than interest rates increase. So, and your rent can go up. You have a mortgage locked in, so your debt payment's the same, and over time you raise your rent 50, 20, 30, 40, 80 bucks a year, whatever it is, so your rent does go up over time. All right, so let's talk about my rental portfolio. Right now it's worth 42 actually, but let's just keep it simple, 40 million. And I owe $25 million, which scares a lot of people. But I owe $25 million on the real estate. That's how I'm able to buy without using any of my own money. 15, 17 million in equity though, so it's a pretty safe position. So let's say 22 years from now, which is kind of the math I did because of the commercial I own, the apartments and the housing. Let's say I stopped buying real estate today. I'm done, which I'm not going to do, as I'll tell you here in a minute. I'm done buying real estate. I'm done. I'm retiring. We're doing that retirement thing I talked about that I'm not going to do. I'm done. So 22 years from now, that'll be worth $100 million, and it'll be paid down to zero. If I stopped now, that's $100 million in equity, in net worth, whatever you want to call it, that if I worked my ass off for 6 years, but last 6, 7 years and I quit, there's not really a way to do that. There's no investment I know that requires none of your own money that will get you $100 million in 22 years. There's no, I guess you could win the lottery, but what are the odds of that? So it is the most proven path to creating massive wealth. Yes, it requires effort. Yes, it requires headaches. Yes, you're going to lose money on a deal. Yes, you're going to screw up. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to want to quit. I've been through all that. But I continue to go back and look at things like this, and it's almost like it's too good to be true. It sounds like a pyramid scheme or something that's not real, like a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. There's no such thing, but it's a get-wealthy-for-sure plan. There's a difference. All right, here's Zuckerberg for you again. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that is changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking any risk. All right, there's my buddy Cam. I went to high school with him. He's a few years younger. And he called me up in 2020. He's actually sent me a message on Facebook. We didn't even have each other's number. He's like 4 years younger. We just kind of knew of each other a little bit. And he was living in Denver. He was a pastor, making $45,000 a year. He had a negative net worth, and he had 0 rental properties. He's from St. Louis. Went to high school together. So is his wife. And he said, I'm in a tough spot. I want to move back to St. Louis. We got 2 young kiddos, want them to be around their grandparents, and so does my wife. But I've noticed, and this is kind of when I started posting on social media, that you've done well in real estate. And if you can show me how to do what you did, I'll come work for you, whatever it takes. But can you kind of show me how to do what you did? And this is what Cam did, coming from not money and a negative net worth. 2 years later, so as of last month, he has a $4 million net worth. I like to make fun of him a lot. We have that kind of relationship, but I can't relate about this. And he doesn't like me telling you how much he makes, but he makes over 10 times what he used to make, and he has over 30 rental properties. And he did that in 2 years. Now, Cam, we kind of joke, a former man of the cloth. He got a good relationship with Jesus up there. So he picked the best time ever from 2020 to 2022, but it's not about the market. It's about the person doing the deals, and it's about the person that is grinding and working every single day, and he's not going to stop. So, of course, he timed it really, really well, but you can go back and go from 18 to 20 or any kind of 2-year stretch. It may not be as drastic, but there's going to be growth there and there's going to be wealth created. So that's why this real estate thing, it's not a fad. It's going to be around, and it has always worked and will always work. The people that got hurt in '08 and the people that are going to get hurt in the next 12 to 18 months are going to be people that are over-leveraged, that are using too much of their own cash, that don't know how to manage properties, that treat tenants like crap and have tenants leave. So it's the recession-proof. I know that words kind of get thrown around. It's pretty tough to have something be recession-proof, but real estate's about as close as it gets, in my opinion. All right, let's talk about the top 3 takeaways, and then I'll kind of go over a few things about what I got coming up, and then we can get into any questions if you guys have it. So you have a choice. I think you guys know that. You guys know that because you're here. You've seen that get hammered into you over the last couple of days. You have a choice to make. It's red pill, blue pill. Whatever pill is the choice that takes you, away from what most people have done is the choice that you have, and you can do it. You literally can. It's not going to be easy, but it can be simple. And debt creates wealth. I don't know any other way to create massive wealth without borrowing money. It's the way that all businesses do it. The world works on credit. The economy works on credit. That's just how it works. That's why inflation is a thing. It was invented so that the assets can go up in enough value to create any money that you borrow from. That's literally the point of inflation, is to allow people to grow and create enough cash flow and equity to pay off any debts that they have. Businesses mainly, but also consumers as well. And then real estate explodes it. You go into debt to borrow money to start to create that, and then utilize that strategy, that mindset, that ABCs in real estate, because everybody in here can manage a house. You can manage a tenant. You can figure out a rehab. It's not super easy, but get quotes, 3 quotes on everything. You can figure it out. You'll stumble your way through it, or you'll just crush it right away. I stumbled my way at first, but you can figure it out. It's not like starting Facebook or Amazon or one of these huge conglomerate tech companies. So what's next for me? I get asked this quite a bit. I'm going to keep adding assets, not going to stop. My goal is to grow more businesses. Next year I'm going to start an investment business, taking a little bit off of Mr. Warren Buffett, who I talked about earlier. He has his active companies that he owns, and then he has passive investments. So next year I'm going to start a company that is going to buy other companies, not in the real estate space. We're going to, a simple example, buy a decently profitable lawn care company with 25 employees, or a car wash or something like that. We're going to get into the buying business space and grow those businesses, whether they need a cash infusion or whether they maybe need a branding infusion. Not going to think that I know how to run a car wash better than the current owner, but just certain things that I can do, I feel like, to add value. And then my goal now is $1 billion in real estate without using any of my own money. So it sounds crazy, and it is, but one of the biggest mistakes I've made doesn't sound like a mistake, but it's not dreaming big enough. My goal was to own $25 million in real estate by 2025, and I'm at 42, and we're in 2022. My first goal was to own 10 properties in 10 years, so buy 1 rental a year for 10 years. When I get, it's a natural progression to kind of start small and grow bigger, but I'm done not dreaming big enough. That's done. $1 billion in real estate and bring an NBA team to St. Louis. So those are my long-term goals now. I am no longer shooting low. I am shooting about as high as you can. There's a ton of reasons for that. St. Louis is not the most exciting city, but I love it. And, we vacation houses and be traveling and doing things, but I always want St. Louis to be the home base. And if we bring an NBA team to St. Louis, that means we'll have made a shit ton of money. That will mean we made a lot of great connections in the city. That will mean we've done a lot of really good things that made the city a desirable place, because the NBA is not, I don't think St. Louis is probably on the radar for them right now, so we have to do a lot in the city to make it better. And then if we do that, we're going to create a ton of jobs in the city and make it an even better place. And if you're wondering names, I'm thinking the Archers maybe, with like the arch and like a basketball, or like Hustle with S.T.A.L.E being like, kind of abbreviated. So I'm sure we'll come up with a better name, but those are the two names I have right now, Archers or the St. Louis Hustle. So we'll see, but big goals if I get them, and when I get there, great. If I fall a little short, I'll still be in a pretty damn good place. I'm just done dreaming too little. All right, so if you want to learn more about me, you can follow me like Walter mentioned earlier, Sam Faster Freedom. I have a couple programs I'm not really going to talk about today, but go to fasterfreedom.com to learn about them. Follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And then I do have a podcast as well that I just launched, about 3 months ago. And last I checked, we were in the top 25 of entrepreneurial podcasts. So it's kind of a fun thing. Thank you. Not used to so much clapping. Walter's got you all jacked up. I like it. So Ordinary Guys, Extraordinary Wealth is what the podcast is called. We're actually changing the name, but if you look it up now, that's how you can find it. It's me and my business partner, Lucas. When I say I or we, it's me and him. We own everything 50-50, so it's a lot of fun. We are just kind of shooting the shit, talking about life and real estate and wealth and financial freedom, and I think that's kind of why it's done so well so far, and the goal is to really, really blow that up. So those are kind of the ways to get a hold of me. This is the mentorship that I talked about. Again, not going to even tell you how to buy it. If you have any interest, hit me up on social media. But this is the kind of value that I like to bring. What you get in my mentorship is you get 5 weekly coaching calls, access to all our systems, action plans to go out and customize, do things just for you, 30-day massive action plan, every single thing to do for your first 30 days that will get you 6 months ahead. The Facebook group, you get access to that, which we have over 175 million in real estate owned in that group. I recorded, it's almost 400 now, 400 videos. It took me 8 months to record 400 5 to 10 minute videos walking through the process. All the resources we use, calculators, everything, access to Faster Freedom Capital, which is a lending company I developed. So if you're looking to borrow money, I have Faster Freedom Capital, the lending company I started earlier this year, and it's lifetime access to all that. So that's the kind of value that I like to bring. I like to have people buy it and feel like they got a steal on it. So if you have interest in that, then make sure to just hit me up or chat with me. I got to catch a flight here in a minute, but you can chat with me after or hit me up on Instagram. Elon Musk, when something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are not in your favor. So that's my presentation. Any questions or?
Let's give Sam a big round of applause. Sam, you're not allowed to go anywhere. Hold on. Stay right there.
Okay.
I'm gonna figure some way out to get your mentorship. I did it with Vinny, so grab a chair, man, real quick. I'm supposed to send everybody to lunch because we're like totally off schedule, but when you know there's like gold, you squeeze, right? Or juice, I don't know, this is an analogy.
I don't think you can squeeze gold, man.
Right.
I think that'd hurt.
We're alchemists, man. We squeeze everything.
All right, there you go.
All right, so you were here and you said something like, if there was a really recession-proof thing, and I was like, you know what I got? A fucking recession-proof shirt. So when I grabbed it.
There you go. Perfect.
See that?
I didn't see you change back there, dang.
I did it so quick.
Okay.
I was literally right in front of you, but nobody saw it because you were so engaging. Let's give Sam a big round of applause. Super engaging. Dude, you're about to be a ventimillionaire.
What?
Ventimillionaire. That's 20 millions.
Yeah, a centimillionaire is the goal soon. But yeah, a centi, 100. But venti, yeah, I get it. Like a latte from Starbucks.
Can he do it? If he can do it. If he can do it. If he can do it. I think so. You know, and he's not successful because he's tall like Tony Robbins, right? He's not successful because he speaks right. And he's not successful because he's got hair. He's successful because he just decided he wanted to be and he went after it, right? Like this guy right here, he's successful because he's got a huge freaking heart. man. Like we're writing one of his books right now, his first book, right? First book. We're writing his book, and we got on a call with him, and the first thing he does, that's what she said joke. I was like, oh man, I can get along with you. This is cool. I can vibe. And then he started opening up like why he does this, like why he does the coaching, why he does the training, like why he does all this stuff. And I was like, man, like I get it. And like obviously when I'm listening to you, like my job is to be as quiet as possible, but like every
That's
moment
hard for you, isn't it?
Yes,
that's
you get
what she,
it.
That's
like,
what she said.
That's
yeah.
come on. So the whole time I'm just like, I want to tell him how much I agree, but I was just like, whatever.
Well, yeah, I think it's the craziest thing for me was kind of got to that path was, and I've said it before, one of our core values is mindset of abundance. That's one of our core values that we follow. We have 7 of them. It's my favorite one. And I said it for a long time, for 4 or 5 years. But about 18 months ago, I felt like I really embraced it, like literally mindset of abundance. There's enough deals out there for everybody. There's enough money out there. I don't need to stab your back to make money. We can make more money together. 1 + 1 can equal 3. There can be a win-win. Yeah. And as soon as I actually embraced that and literally inside felt that, started to create more wealth and make more money almost than I knew what to do with. But the minute I was trying to make money or make sure, I don't know if this person should make this much on this deal, when I had that mindset, I did fine, but it just kind of seemed to be slow growth. As soon as I was like, all right, whatever, it's going to be what it's going to be, we'll figure it out, that's when the actually money started to come in. So when I stopped focusing on money and focused on helping people and creating an actual abundance mindset is when the money came. It's kind of uncanny how looking back when that started.
Fantastic. Let's give him a round of applause. Is that valuable? Can you relate to that in your life? Can you remember that you've had a moment where you're just fighting so hard for money? It was like you were losing money because you're fighting so hard, focusing on it, working, hustling, grinding. And then one day you just said, you know what? I know it's coming. And before you know it, things just you started connecting with the right people. You started meeting the right people. You started like meeting mentors and guides. And you join a group or you join a company or you say yes to the deal. You finally put in an offer instead of stressing and evaluating and analysis paralysis, evaluating. You finally just start putting in offers like the way Sam suggested and you start getting deals accepted. Big difference, yes? So Sam does have to jump on a plane, but like I said, you can find him on social media and I'm like almost 100%, 10% certain he's going to put a course in Alchemist Nation. I'm going to get you to donate a course.
We'll see.
That's a yes.
I gotta make him sweat a little bit, right? Talked about sweating earlier. I gotta make him sweat a little bit.
All right,
we'll work something out.
So I am going to make you filthy fucking rich. Who have I said that to in this room before?
All of us.
All of you. I'm making the same commitment to you, brother.
Let's do it.
I don't know like what it is, but I will find a way because I love your spirit. I love like who you are, and I met your wife earlier, and she put up with some shit during the VIP lunch, which is like absolutely amazing. Let's give Courtney a big round of applause. Courtney Primm. Amazing. And let's stand them up. Do you remember when we had Bill Allen in here a little while ago? Yeah, we're all standing. This is actually funnier than you think. So Bill Allen is about this tall on me. So I was in the back of the room. I was with Sam. I was like, man, I would love to just get you and Sam side by side. So like you could see like Sam's worth $5 million more than Bill is worth $5 million more than Sam is, even though he's 3 feet shorter. Right? None of the challenges you think are real exist. None of it's real, right? None of it. And this guy is going to be a billionaire. Do we believe that? Yes or yes? Let's send him some positive billionaire energy right now because we know he's doing it. He's doing it from the heart. And each one of you gets to watch his journey. Follow him on TikTok, follow him on Instagram. Sam, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you. Give him a big round of applause.
We'll be in touch, buddy.
Hell yeah. More! Give him the lights!
It's our fire!
You ready? Check this out. Come get it. Get it. Woo! Sam Primm!